as a set decorator, I mean, the name explains it, the word explains itself, but what were some of your pieces of work in terms of scenes that you were involved in, just to kind of get an idea of that? Or was it every single scene there was?
Well, I did all of the Malta shoot and a tiny bit of the UK shoot. So the UK shoot was 2 weeks where they did the big battle sequence in the woods. And there
Hmm.
was a bit of Richard Harris's tent, his tented
Right.
encampment. And some of the tented encampment inside, i.e., like Russell Crowe's tent, that was actually, I did that in Malta. It wasn't shot in the UK. So like I had to do that bit. And when he's looking at his, he's got the wife and kid, he's praying to them, but
Yeah.
he doesn't know they're dead yet. And then there's obviously a crossover, so you have a crossover of weapons, crossover of flags, pennants, all that kind of thing, also with all the horse dressing. So on the shows that I was responsible for all the horse tack, chariots, flags, greenery, all the props, all the dressing of the sets, the furniture, drapes, also the big statues, all the light fittings that you saw, the huge braziers, food, anything at all, carts, anything like that came under my umbrella. And when I will say this, that when I watch Gladiator, I see the it's just a stupid thing probably, and you'll probably won't. But
No,
when I
I
look at
won't say.
when I look at the Emperor's box, so the Emperor's box was the idea of that, and I mean the Colosseum exists, as you know, and the Emperor's box is a very famous painting by Jerome. You probably know it well, which has the gladiator standing there in that strange sort of weird
Oh,
helmet,
right. Yes, yes.
standing like that, and he's got like a loincloth on, and it's a very famous painting by Jerome, and you can see the emperor's box behind. So that was kind of the inspiration for what you saw. And I look at it and I think just that awning that's on the top of it, just trying to get that to sort of sit properly so it was straight and perfect and tight, in itself was a feat. And also, the other thing that we had to do was we only had half a set. So when Ridley wanted to shoot the other side of the Colosseum, I would have to strip out everything in the Emperor's box, take it out and carry it across the dirt and in the heat, whatever it was. And we had it down to about 30 minutes changing the
Right.
motor. But it wasn't just furniture. I did like wrapping around the posts. I had leather for the emperor, and it was black leather, and you had to unroll it and I mean it was quite feat. And also those huge garlands that you saw, I made those myself with these hands. I didn't have a greensman. These days
Mhm.
you have all these people that help you. I didn't have any of that, so I used to sit by myself with great big things of laurel, and I'd be there, and I made the ribbons that there were big wide purple ribbons that kind of crisscross that I put on, and I literally sewed those in my hotel bedroom.
Wow. See,
So when you
that's what I miss. That's what I miss in storytelling. It's that
Yeah, but people don't need to do that now. They have like loads of assistants. I don't have an assistant either,
I
by the way. I was the assistant set decorator. I was the set decorator. I was the standby set decorator. I was the greensman. That scene where Russell dies and he goes and you see he puts his hand out to go to that chapel.
yeah,
There's that chapel and there's all the green
yeah.
grass on the ground and there's bits floating in the air. So that wasn't green grass. No, I had a Fiat Punto as my car, no greensman. And I went to my local buyer. I had a local buyer called Lawrence, who was just divine. He's not here anymore. He's gone to heaven now. And I said, Lawrence, what are we going to do? I need some grass. I've got to do this thing. There's no grass. I mean, there's no grass in Malta. Malta's not grass.
Yeah.
So we went together in the car and we went to the golf course. And he knew the groundskeeper at the golf course. There is a golf course in Malta, in Valletta, outside Valletta. And he said, I'm going to see if he's going to let us take some of the edge, the way edge where the lawnmower doesn't cut. And of course, it was
Mm.
all brown because it's Malta and it's hot. I was like, okay. So I had a shovel. We brought shovels. So I had to go. I went 5 times in my Fiat Punto. You know how big they are. They're not very big. I had the seats down in the back, and we were digging dirt with bits of dead grass on it, filling my car up and driving back to the set. And I was dressing it on like as we were going. And then I got my painter, I had a painter, Jamie, and I said, Jamie, you're gonna have to paint it green. We need some grass. Just spray the grass green. He went, okay. And so he just was spraying the grass. He sprayed it green. And then I was like, oh, okay, this is good. And then we did like a little bit of water over it. And Ridley was like, oh, that looks good, doesn't it? And I was like, I know, it's amazing what you can do with no money, because I had no money. Everyone thinks I had a huge budget. I had £40,000. That's all I had to do that film that you saw, 40 grand.
Wow.
And people and that's all I had to run it when I was in Malta. So the furniture was, I'd rented it in England, so that was one bill, and then there was, but to actually run it while we were filming, all I had was 40,000 for like everything that I had to, like, anything I had to do. And so I got back, and then I was like, oh, something missing. So I got back in my car and I drove to my apartment, and I had a Harrods pillow made from Hungarian goose down, which is my favorite pillow. And I thought, "Oh, we need to do like floaty stuff, like bits, because Ridley likes bits." So I got a fan from Special Effects, a big fan. I said, "Can you bring a fan?" This is all you have to understand. This all happened in a morning. This isn't
I
like
get
a
it.
week.
Yeah.
I literally was like, I had to get it done. And so I go there, and then Ridley said, "Right, we're going to shoot now," like this. So I had my hand. So when you watch that film and you see all those little bits floating through the air, that's my hand. And I was going like this with my Hungarian goose down, which I cut from the corner of my pillow. And I'm going like that in front of a big fan from Special Effects to make the grass move and this thing. And I'm going like this to make the bits float through the air. I was standing there doing that.
Wow. That's amazing. And it's amazing that when you are sort of limited with resources and budget, the amount of things that you can pull off in that
Well, you have to, because
spontaneous moment.
people look at that film and they think, oh, there must have been hundreds you must have had. And I'm like, well, no, I didn't.
Because
All
there's
of
that
you
personal
don't.
touch, right? There's that personal touch that you
I
have,
think
and
there
that
is, and
comes
I think there is, yeah. And I think also, I had 4 weeks prep. 4 weeks prep I had. Because the previous set decorator sort of didn't do anything for 7 months. I think she just had a meltdown
Mm,
and didn't do anything. And so the prop room was empty. There wasn't anything in the prop room. And I had 4 weeks to do what you saw.
amazing stuff.
And I lost 2.5
Wow.
stone in weight, and I had hives all over me from stress. I don't know. I do look at it now, and I just think, my God, I don't think I could do that now. I'm 62 now. I was 37 then. Um, I think I could if I had to, but I don't want to. I'm like, I don't want to, and I think I was just put in a position that it had to happen. There was no choice. It had to happen. We were filming. It was going to happen. And I was very lucky that special effects were so amazing helping me. And the plaster shop was so amazing helping me, because I literally had to cod it together in days. And I was so lucky that I had Lawrence, who was amazing, local buyer. And I was so, and I had Colin Fox as brilliant drapesman. And he came with me from England. He just was sewing, 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 sewing. And Roland, who did all the beautiful sculpting, came with me. And I had Jamie, the painter. And it was mostly just us. And also John King, who was the supervising art director. I mean, I call him Dad. I couldn't do anything without Dad. He helped me, because it was pretty full on, and it's Ridley. So,
Yeah.
and he did actually say to me when I saw him, he didn't actually say it to me. He said it to Neil Corbould just recently, well, before Christmas, when I went, and he looked at Neil, because I kind of had left him. I was watching some shooting on Gladiator 2, and I walked out of his trailer, and he turned to Neil and he went, "She really was amazing, wasn't she?" And
I'm
I
sure sure you
He,
were.
well, it's funny because I don't, he did say to me, when the bed, so the scene where Sibylla goes and she goes into Commodus's room,
Mm.
I literally had 2 days to do that bed with all the columns and all the everything, because there was no bed. And that's why I was saying that the plaster shop really helped me with it. And
Right.
Lawrence was amazing. We were buying marble slabs in Sicily, and he was getting people to put it in trucks and get on boats and come and bring it to me. But Barrett, you've got to remember, I didn't have a lot of money. So I was having to like go, well, how much is that? I was trying to do that. I was dressing, I had Ridley, phone was going, radios were going. And I did the bedroom. And I remember the day I did it, I was exhausted. I hadn't been to bed for 3 days. And Ridley arrived on the set. In fact, it makes my throat tighten up when I think about it. And he arrived on the set, and he walked in, and he used to smoke cigars then. And he walked in, he went, "Who did this then?" Like that, about the set, because he hadn't seen it. I hadn't seen it at all. "Who did this then?" Like this. And all the crew, and I'm not joking, it was like the parting of the Red Sea. They kind of all backed away, and I was left standing there in my filthy shorts. I was covered, I was filthy, sweaty, hadn't been to bed. I was exhausted. And I just stood there like this thing, and I just went, "Me," like that, because everyone backed off because they thought he was going to say he didn't like it. And he got his hand and he thumped me on my shoulder and he went, "It's fucking amazing. Let's shoot this." And
That's
I just
amazing.
stood there and I turned to Judy Bunn, who was the line producer, and I turned around to her and I just looked at her and I went, and I just burst into tears, because it was, you have to understand, it was really difficult job. And Arthur wasn't there. He'd gone off to Italy to go and eat pasta and find a location for that beginning scene. And I was on my own, and I just looked at Judy Bunn and I went, and I burst into tears, and she went, "Darling, darling, are you all right?" And I just went, he likes it. He says he likes it. Like that. And she went, "Darling, that's so great." And I just was like, it was just, I think it was all the anxiety, because you have to remember, I was just thrown in at the deep end. I was literally told, "Here's this enormous film, sort it out."